Well, hi again, folks. Well, this is a little kind of Rube Goldberg setup that I threw together this summer to get me kind of a vacuum I can use for some urban prospecting. It's quite simple and it's a lot easier to build than one of the gas-powered ones. What got me kind of started on this it was that I ran across this little bucket head, they call them, at Home Depot. It's just a little power head, and you drop it on top of a 5-gallon bucket, and that turns it into a small wet and dry shop vacuum. This has a fine dust filter on it, so that you're not blowing fine particles throughout your house if you're sucking up like fireplace ashes or in the shop or something like that. You just remove it in order to suck up water or mud or wet things. I had this jump starter power supply from Harbor Freight on hand that I use for powering up my recirculating sluice. I had a little power inverter that died early in the summer, so I took another trip to Harbor Freight and picked up this 750 watt unit. And it's got a USB port as well on it, which is kind of handy. So I decided to see if this would work with the shop vac, and maybe I'd get lucky. And I did. So now I had a very versatile little power setup. It'll also run other appliances. I can jump start cars, I can charge phones, iPads, whatever. So very handy to have. So we teamed it up with the shop vac and everything seems to run quite well. Well, the only problem seems to be with portability. It means you have to take 2 trips to set up the shop vac. So that was kind of awkward. However, it did work quite well. And we did a few trips like this. I had a 1x6 and a 1x2 left over from other projects down in the shop. So I thought I'd make me a little box and make it so I could carry this around a little easier. So this is what I've come up with. It isn't fancy, but it does work. And it allows me to carry the power supply and the shop vac around together and haul it to wherever I'm going to be doing my work. Although it's not been very fancy, it has done the job for me. And until I come up with something else, I guess this will have to do. But it has been working very efficiently for me this summer, and I've sucked up quite a bit of dirt with it. So I've been pretty happy with the whole setup so far. Now another thing is, you could buy a riding lawnmower battery from Walmart for $20-30, and that would make it a little more compact power supply for it. But this is what I had on hand, so we decided to use it. The cigarette lighter ports are very handy to have if you have other power supplies that you want to plug into it. The USB port I like for charging iPhones, iPads, whatever. If you're charging a battery or running your sluice, the power switch is handy to have. And also a little LED lighting setup to help you see if you're trying to jump start a car in the middle of the night. And the LED readout on the power supply is very helpful. Well, my grandson likes to come down on the weekends and run a little pay dirt through my recirculating system. One weekend he called and I didn't have any dirt, but he says, well, I've got some that I picked up. And he brought down, and boy, that started a whole new summer of urban prospecting for us here. But as you can see, it's a little tedious and time consuming because the gold likes to stick right to the bottom of the concrete and get down into those little cracks, and it's a little difficult to get down in there and clean them out. Well, in our area, a lot of the old roads have a quartz coating on the top of them. And this quartz coating, when they crush it, has gold in it. So the gold and the quartz gets laid on top of the asphalt and gets pressed down into it. Well, over a period of time, this quartz and the gold gets worked out on the top here, and then eventually gets washed into the gutters. And that's where we've been collecting it. The cracks in the roadway act just like the crevices in a stream, and they collect fine gold down inside of them. So we can run a crevice tool down in there and dig as much as we can out, and then use the shop vac here to go along and suck up the material. So this makes things a whole lot easier for us. Well, that didn't turn out too badly for about 2.5 gallons of dirt. Like most vacs, you can also use it as a blower. So if you run into some piles with a lot of leaves, grass, stuff like that on it, it's easy to kind of blow that stuff off and kind of get yourself down to the bare dirt on it. Well, as I'm out here working, the city's out here too. And of course, they got a whole lot bigger machine than I got. Am I jealous? You darn right I am. I picked up this little hand leaf rake at one of the garden stores, and it makes it kind of handy to clean some of the worst of the garbage off the sand and the dirt that you're trying to get to. Well, as you can see, it doesn't do too bad a job. This is only a 1.75 horsepower unit, but it got quite a bit of suction there for doing this loose stuff. Rigid also makes one that's a 4-gallon, and it's got a 5-horse motor on it, which really does a job. But this one's nice to take out, and if it gets damaged, lost, broken, whatever, I'm not out a lot of money. This one's only about a $25 unit, where the other one's closer to 65 to 80. Yep, you'll get a rock or a clod in there every now and again, which will plug it up just like a dredge, but for the most part it does a good job. This should give you kind of an idea of what one of these little units can do, and give you an idea of an alternative vacuum system that you can take out in the field. This is only about 10 minutes worth of sucking right here, so that'll give you kind of an idea of what it can do. And is this worth all the hassle, digging gutter dirt and crevices out of the road? Well, stay tuned for my future videos and you can make up your mind for yourself. Well, that little batch of dirt has been sitting there for a couple of years, and so that didn't turn out too bad for about 10 minutes worth of work. So anyway, you just never know what you're going to find. To kind of give you one more idea of how well this little thing works, we're working an old dilapidated parking lot that's been sitting by the bank of the river for quite some time and is hardly ever used. And as you can see, it's got a lot of nice cracks in it that has collected quite a bunch of dirt in it. So today we're going to be taking some samples. Well, with urban prospecting, it's just like stream prospecting. You just keep sampling, sampling, and sampling. So what I like to do is just take samples around from large cracks like this and see if anything shows up. If it does, then we can always come back and do a little more digging. This is kind of similar to what you're going to be running into if you work the desert, work some of those dry washes, or if you're working big crevices alongside a river. This will give you kind of an idea of what this can do. So one thing you always want to do before you leave is to fill your holes back in. Well, this has been a very handy little project for me, and I hope it will give you some ideas for something that you can build on your own. So, as always, folks, thank you very much for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day. Bye now.